Welcome back to the Pirate Ship Blender series. In this series, we'll be creating some important game assets for a pretend pirate role-playing game. The player would need to interact with or use these objects to do things like access their quest log, change their equipment or outfit, or navigate the ship. By the end of the series, we will have filled our pirate ship with over 10 purposeful game objects. If you haven't been following along with the series, I recommend you go download the starter Blender file, which contains the entire ship asset for free and for you to use when following along with this video. So before we start modeling anything, go download the Blender file from my GitHub and I'll see you when you get back. So let's pretend that we're building a pirate role-playing game. And in this game, our character needs a way to change their clothes and cosmetics. I'd like to create this pirate-themed dresser. And when the player interacts with it, it will play a cute open and close animation. And we're pretending that there would be some game UI that would launch to allow the player to choose a different hat or costume when the player interacts with it in Unity. But since that part's in Unity, we'll save that for later. For now, we'll just model and animate it. During this video, I'm also going to show you how I drew this rope texture in Photoshop. But I'll also just upload the image to GitHub so you can download it and skip that part if you'd prefer. The final thing I want to mention is that I had over 4 hours of recorded video, so I had to speed up or cut out some parts to reduce it to an hour. So I'll record a voiceover for the important parts. Alright, I hope you're excited to start decorating our ship. Let's get started. Cool, so I just start by creating a plane, and you'll notice the cylinder there is my character reference. I want to size the armoire in relation to the character and make sure that it's a little bit wider and taller than the character. I created that character reference just like from a Unity game that I have. So your character reference or your size might be different, but this is how I was able to gauge the general size that the armoire should be. So to start out, I'm going to form kind of the backboard right there in the center, and then there's going to be two of the sides on the left and right. You'll see I'll extrude it toward the back, and then I'll take the center thing and I'll take it toward the back as well. This is just like a block out of the general shape of the armoire. So in the end, I'm going to end up merging all of this together into one mesh, but for now it's 3 separate parts. You'll notice I'm using the mirror modifier as well. I'll apply that kind of towards the end, and then I'll get rid of a lot of those seams. So the next thing I want to focus on is building the shelves and the top and bottom parts. I'm going to do that by just duplicating one of the faces and shrinking it down here and kind of putting it into position. Throughout the video, I'm going to be moving things around quite a few times and kind of getting to its final resting place, but for now, this is just a block out. I'm going to assign some random material I had here. It's not the one I'm going to end up using, so it's not important what color that is or anything, just if you're following along. Just something I had and I wanted to give it some sort of color. I like to use X-ray mode like Alt-Z in combination with this matte cap view. It adds a different color to each of the faces, so it makes it easier to see when things collide or when there's a face inside of another face. Later on, I'm going to make quite a few mistakes here that when I apply a mirror modifier and I have clipping enabled, there's actually going to be inside faces where they meet, and you're going to see me kind of hunting around trying to find them. That's my fault. But when you merge these together with clipping, just make sure they don't have a face on the two parts that connect. The other thing is that there's not a whole lot for me to say for some of these parts. It's mostly just watching. So I'll probably just like play some music and stuff when I don't have an important note to make. So I just thought I'd call that out. So next I wanted to add some sort of like a vertical board on that topmost shelf, but I didn't want it to be straight up and down. I wanted this whole thing to look a little warped and broken. You'll see I kind of mess with the handles and stuff later to make it look like it's fallen off, and I'll kind of shrink in the sides. But for now I just added a center board, but I made it look like maybe the screws had come loose and it was just kind of tilted to the side. Throughout the video, I'll just keep moving this thing around and I'll keep resizing the shelf and stuff, but generally speaking, the reason it's diagonal is because I wanted it to be broken. The next thing I'm going to focus on is just creating the bottom drawer. It's one big, like, hollowed box. The shelves on the top are going to be two. They're going to be two individual boxes, but down here it's just one big unified box. And I took probably the most difficult approach here. So you can see I have the mirror modifier applied, and I delete some of the interfaces. I take this edge loop, extrude down on the Z, and then use F to fill right here, I think. There you go. And then for the overall kind of like depth or size of the box, I just grab the sides and pull them up right here. And I really don't know like how deep it's going to be at this point, so I just kind of create that general shape, and I'll come back later and work on it. Next, I want to build the top two drawers. They're two independent drawers that come out on their own. I duplicate the bottom one, which is unified, and here I'm sitting here trying to strategize how I'm going to go about this. I pull it apart and make sure that there's no interfaces. I considered bridging edge loops on this, but because it has the mirror modifier, I decided to just re-enable clipping and then squeeze it back together. So right there, put it back together. Then I'm going to apply the mirror modifier so that I have one box. Now I need two boxes. So first I'm going to kind of position this correctly on the right half of the armoire. And then I'm going to add the mirror modifier back to it so that I'll have two boxes. The new problem that will create is that I'll have two boxes kind of sharing the same mesh ultimately, like even if I applied the mirror modifier. So then later I'm going to have to like separate by selection and create two. But for now, this will allow me to edit both of them at the same time. So that's how I created the two. At this point, I noticed the normals were facing the wrong direction, so I just grabbed everything and then flipped it. So the general style approach I've been doing with the ship and with this model is for kind of soft edges, and I accomplished that with the bevel modifier followed by the weighted normal modifier. It's got a weight of 100 and then a threshold of 0, and I apply that to most things. You'll see here I'm doing the same thing just to each of the parts. Later on, I'm actually going to remove this from some of the things, but I just wanted to see what it looked like now when I was modeling. And also, you're going to notice that there's like dark spots right there. I just pointed at it. That's actually from faces that are inside of the mesh. I mentioned this earlier. So here I use Alt-Z to go to X-ray mode. I find that interface and then delete that face. And that's what was causing that. And that was just my fault when I applied the mirror modifier. I should have never had like faces on the parts that touched. So we could have avoided that ahead of time, but that's how you fix that. So at this point, I'm wanting to get rid of that backboard and like kind of join it with the mesh. So I delete these back faces. I'm going to grab those two edges and use F to fill. Then I'm going to grab the like surrounding edge loop like that right there. I'm going to extrude it out on the Y. So extrude Y and then F to fill that again. And with that done, we don't need that back part anymore, so I just delete it. All right, so this is a really cool part. So I start by creating a Bezier curve, rotate it on the X, and so that it faces the camera when we use one on the numpad, because I like to work in that view when dealing with curves. I'm just going to kind of move the little nodes around, so one on the top, one on the left, one on the bottom, and one on the right. And what I'm creating is this top, like stylized hat, kind of a pirate hat looking thing that goes on top of the armoire. I just thought it looked a little nautical. I wasn't super sure what I was doing, to be honest. But I'm just going to kind of nudge these things around here for a while until I get the overall shape that I'm looking for. The thing I want to call out is that before you convert this to a mesh, because right now it's a curve, you'll use object convert to mesh. Before we do that though, I want to lower the resolution right there. You see I drop it down to 3. It makes it look a little bit more jagged, but it really helps with the geometry toward like at the end, so you don't have like too many vertices. You'll notice that maybe toward the end here, I'm still going to end up deleting a bunch more. But so here when I extrude it, then I would have had twice as many. So that's kind of one of the reasons I did that. And I just want to point out I added the mirror modifier. So yeah, by extruding that, I form kind of the top shape. I'm going to delete the left vertices and then apply a mirror modifier so that I only have to work on one side. I keep applying the mirror modifier throughout this and realizing that it was just too soon. So you'll see me do that a few times. I add a solidify modifier only so that I can see it from the side view. I'm not actually going to use that. I just wanted it here so I could kind of get a good look at it. I'll end up taking it away here in a moment. Here I'm kind of trying to figure out where they should touch, like which vertices should touch. I actually don't just want those middle ones to touch. I kind of want them to collide like all 3 of them. So you see I delete these, the kind of the bottom stuff like the curl. We don't need that. I made a backup of that earlier. So I'm just trying to create that top shape. So I decided that's where I want them to touch. And then most likely I will apply this and then merge the vertices. So there, I've applied everything. So now I'm going to take it, I'm going to duplicate it, rotate it around the Y so I have a bottom, and then scale Z0 so that it's flat, grab the 2 edges, and then bridge edge loops. And that's how I create the front face, the back face, and then I'll just grab the 4 edges here and use F to fill on the sides. And with that, I pretty much have the general shape of the top half part. Afterward, I'm going to want to work on like the front design, like the little like curls that we had earlier. I made a backup of those, so I'll just bring those back in here in a moment, and then I'll try to position it like along the border of this thing that we've created. So right here, I bring it back. It doesn't perfectly match because we've been moving things around here, so I'm going to kind of put it back into position. And if I'm smart, I'll delete the left, yeah, and then apply mirror modifier again. So I keep doing that, you'll see, but I'm impatient. I keep wanting to apply the mirror modifier. So I add a couple of vertices here just so it fits the curve a little bit better. Ultimately, my goal is to take this and add a skin modifier. So you see I have a mirror and a skin. I grab everything, then I use Control A to reduce the radius on each of them, on each of the nodes. That's how you can resize a skin with Control A. Then I kind of position it. So here's a cool trick. So you can grab that end vertex or the end node right there. Then with proportional editing, if you have connected checked, then you can actually scale down the radius on just that endpoint, but it will work its way back along the path. So you see it's real skinny or kind of narrow there at the end, and then it kind of progressively gets a little bit fatter toward the end. I think that's really cool. So yeah, so that's Control A to change that with proportional editing enabled. So next, I want to apply the skin modifier, and then I want to delete all these front faces. I want to work with a plane is the objective here. I don't want to work with this 3D mesh. So I'm just going to go along here and delete all these front faces. I'm deleting the vertices so that it takes the faces and vertices out. So I'm left with just a nice flat plane. This will make it easier to merge these parts at the center was kind of my goal. Let's probably grab everything and bring it forward so it's easy to see. And then one by one, I'm going to take these 2 like vertices, and then I'm going to merge at center. So merge at center, merge at center. That just made it easier to kind of, I think, join the 2 meshes together. That was my opinion. We didn't have to do this here at the corners. I just didn't like those diagonals, so I just kind of merge again at center, then I just kind of delete those and fill the face again. Not a big deal. you don't have to do that. As I'm making these tweaks, I start realizing I'm going to have to do them all again on the left side, and I wasn't having that, so I applied the mirror modifier again, and then I just immediately applied it. I checked if I could merge anything by distance, and I couldn't. I just wanted to be safe. I wasn't sure. I applied the solidify modifier, kind of bring it forward, and that's, I mean, for the most part, that's the general shape. So here I noticed that there's just a lot of edges and a lot of extra unnecessary geometry. So I just kind of take out all the edges that are along like a kind of a straight, and I only keep the ones that form the curve. So you'll see like anything kind of in the center of like a straight line, I'll just take those out. Just unnecessary geometry. Which again, they get doubled when you solidify, so you kind of want to be conscious of that. Plus this was supposed to be used for a game object. But yeah, I'll just kind of go through here and I'll just keep taking all these out. You want to leave the one in the center, kind of where the mirror modifier would connect. I forgot to do that, and you'll see me, I'll have to fix it here in a moment. So I'm telling you, go ahead and, so you see I put it back there. But leave that one in there, because now I'm going to delete the whole left side in this unnecessary, and then I'll add the mirror modifier again. That's probably like the 4th time I've done that. So that's why I added that there. And here I just wanted to create like a kind of a bar that goes through it. I thought it looked nautical, like an anchor or something. So I just I duplicate this edge, I extrude it, and then I just kind of bring it forward because it has the solidify already applied. But that's all I was doing here, is just creating a bar. You honestly could, instead of having 2, could just make one solid bar that goes right through it. That would have been much better. And actually toward the end, I do that, I fix this. But for now, just make a bar that goes through it. And so the next order of business is I want to create some handles for these drawers. The drawers already have the mirror modifier applied, so I can easily just take this face, duplicate it, and I'll get 2. Kind of shrink it down, then I'll extrude it to create a box. I'll grab that top face, and then I'm just going to inset it with I. I apologize, screencast keys appears to be not showing right now. Then after insetting, I extrude with E and then down on the Z axis. So E then Z down, get it into position. One of the next things I'm going to want to do is delete these back faces. When I attach this handle to the drawer, you're not going to see this side of it. So you'll see I do this actually quite a bit, but I like to delete back faces that you're not going to see. Just make sure you UV unwrap a lot cleaner. And again, I like to just delete the faces that you won't ever see. So I just delete these top faces underneath the hat. Next, I wanted to create the handle for the bottom jar, and I was just going to reuse this little anchor looking thing. So I grab all these faces. I use Control Numpad Plus to like select, like starting from the edges. I fill these faces, fill and fill. I'll shade flat, then I'll bring it down and just kind of attach it to the jar. I noticed it wasn't flush, it wasn't straight. So I'm gonna grab like the right edges, so the right vertices, and then I'm just gonna scale Y0. I'm gonna grab the left ones, scale Y0, and now I know they're flat. This thing will sit flush against the drawer now. Now my goal here, I want to apply the mirror modifier on the top boxes as well as the handles, and I want to do that so that I can join the handles into the box and have two separate boxes. I'm ready to start messing with them independently. So this stuff's kind of, I just thought about taking it out, but all I'm doing is just kind of like rotating some things so that it looks a little bit more broken. So I'll rotate this left handle. Later on, I'll rotate this right handle like a whole lot so it looks like it's fallen off. And I just kind of made that top shelf kind of crooked. I'm gonna grab these faces and pull them down so that the box looks a little warped. I'll add two edge loops on the side and bring them in, so scale along the X. Kind of squeeze it in there right there. That way it kind of just looks, I don't know, warped. That's all I was going for. So regarding this UV unwrap, I left it out of the video. It was over an hour of me doing it, and I honestly didn't think people would want to see it. But I do kind of show a little bit later what the final product looks like, so maybe you'll be able to glean from that. But I thought it would be tedious and nobody would want to see this. So I left the UV unwrap out. So this next part's pretty fun. So I'm gonna create like a pirate hook, like a hand hook, and that's gonna be the hangers for where you might hang your hat or your sash or something. So I start with a cube and I apply the subdivision surface. That's how I like to create spheres. I think it makes it like round and I like the topology better. So I just kind of cut that in half after applying the subdivision surface to it. And then kind of from the side view here, I'm gonna take one vertice and I'm gonna use E to extrude the vertice, and I'm just gonna create like a hook shape. You see I kind of trace it with my mouse there. So, so I'm gonna use Control and then right click, and that's how you can quickly extrude to the point where your mouse is. You could just use E to extrude as well. But I'm gonna create this like this general hook shape. And then in a little bit, I'm gonna apply a skin modifier to it. So just kind of positioning things. I end up deleting that topmost one. I thought it looked stupid. So you can leave that out if you're following along. So should be able to wrap up here, and then I'll apply the skin modifier. It looks crazy, so remember, select everything, then Control A to modify the radius. And then like we did before, I'll probably grab that end one, use proportional editing, there it is. And then I'll scale down just starting from that point. Use the little slider, and you can see the effect that has. It looks really nice. And just like I did before, I feel it has too many like edges and vertices, so I'm just going to go through and kind of clean up the ones that are on the straight parts. I'll add just some materials that I have. This is just like a crude gold material, kind of metallic. Then I'll add a steel to the black part, to the hook. And again, I'll look at this and I'll kind of think, I don't like that top part, so I'll go back into edit mode. I'll delete those top vertices and I'll fill the face. So right here, delete, and then fill the face. I think that just looks better. And again, I'll delete the back faces before I UV unwrap, but I left the UV unwrap part out. So for the next little while, I'm going to draw a rope texture, like a rope net texture. You don't have to follow along with this if you don't want to, because I'm going to upload the image to GitHub and you can just download it and use it. I simply wanted to include it for the people who did want to follow along. And even then, it's pretty crudely and quickly done. I made a few mistakes in here, so to start with, I wanted the lines that go from the top left to the bottom right, I'm calling those 45 degrees. I wanted those to be in front. And then the ones that go the other direction, I gave those like a gray color so that they're kind of behind. And when I tint the yellow into it, it's going to be a darker yellow naturally. So it's going to look like they're behind perhaps. I'm also going to shade in some ambient occlusion where the ropes overlap. I don't know if that helped or not, but that was kind of my logic for that. And then when I draw the lines, I just kind of make them go along the angle of the rope. For this part, I was just trying to draw like a knot, so some twine is wrapped around them and keeps them attached. I think what really would have helped this final piece would be if I would have had the ropes woven together, so over, then under, over, then under. You'll notice that my 45-degree lines are always on top, where they actually should go over, under, over, under. That would have probably been the biggest improvement I could have made if I could do this over again. I wanted the knots to look a little more 3D, so I just add a drop shadow to them. So hopefully you've downloaded the image that I uploaded, the texture, and now I'm going to create the actual rope mesh. So I create a plane, I rotate it a couple times, kind of size it to fit the size of the arm wire. It's actually going to lay over top of the arm wire. So I add some loop cuts here just so that it'll be able to bend. I actually need to add even more later, but this is just kind of a starting point. We need to add this. Oh, so for the shader, I literally just have the image, but I attach the alpha to the alpha node so that it's transparent. And then I scale it to 6. I kind of play around with it, but 6 is what I ended up on. Afterward, I want to just cut some holes in it so it looks not so clean and uniform. So I'm just going to grab that vertice, Control B, and then V to create that face. Then I'm just going to delete the face. Control B, V, delete the face. Let's kind of move some things around and just kind of make it look a little, torn and tattered. In a moment, I'm going to lay this on top of the arm wire and then use a cloth simulation so that it'll wrap around. At first I tried doing it myself and it was pretty tedious. So I think that's what I'll do here in a moment. So I add a collision to the arm wire so that the cloth can collide with it. And then I add a cloth simulation to the plane. So I'm just kind of positioning it before I actually apply or run the simulation. Let's kind of get it into position. The one thing to note is I don't want this thing to fall off onto the floor. So I need to pin these edges right here. I want to take those vertices and I want to create a vertex group, and then I'm going to pin those. So you'll see here with, I'm just kind of moving it into position here, but with the vertices selected, in one moment, right there, I'm going to create a vertex group and I'm going to assign them to those vertices. Then I'm going to create the cloth simulation, and then I'm going to assign that to the pin group right there. And when I apply the simulation, those vertices, they won't move at all. So then this thing won't be able to fall onto the floor. So I left this in. When I did it the first time, you see it's just kind of jittery and it's stiff. This is when I realized I actually need more, I need to subdivide it. I need more geometry here. So I just wanted to leave that in to show you the difference between not enough geometry and more. So then there I subdivide it, and I'm going to try it again. I noticed it doesn't subdivide those little areas right there. I was kind of thinking about how to deal with that, then I realized I just don't care. So then I play the simulation. I like this much better. However, I'm just kind of, I don't like how much geometry is on there now that I've subdivided it. So in a moment, I'm going to use a decimate modifier, and I'm going to remove like half of it. So I just kind of play around with this until I find something I like. With the decimate modifier, I'm going to use unsubdivide. So here it is, decimate, unsubdivide, one iteration. Then I just apply it. And now it looks like that. And I was much happier with that result. I also applied the cloth simulation. I didn't call that out. Here I'm just going to tweak and move some stuff around. It didn't quite look exactly how I wanted it, but I thought this helped a little bit. But this stuff is just tedious. So I cut most of it out of the video. All right, and this is the final product. This is it. So I thought I would just show some B-roll of it. You can see the red parts where the seams are, but I just thought I would kind of pan around and show you what this thing ends up looking like. After this, we're going to add the animation, so this is basically it. There's one last thing I wanted to add. I wanted to create a cute animation that would play when the character interacts with it, when the drawers open and close. I have the exported FBX here, and you can see that there's a single animation clip. I don't know why it was called scene, but I copy and pasted it to rename it to open clip. I created an animator controller, and and I attach that to the game object. In the animator controller, I drag and dropped the clip 2 times, and I just play it in reverse with a speed of 1 or a speed of -1 when I want it to open or close. So it's the same clip, just 2 times. Then I created 2 triggers in the animator controller, one for opening and one for closing, and then I just have a transition. So next, let's hop over into Blender and I'll show you how I created the animation. This was a relatively difficult animation to create, and it took me some trial and error to get to like a working solution. And that's because I wanted to animate multiple objects, but I still wanted to export only a single animation clip. For instance, I wanted the entire armoire to scale, but I wanted each of the drawers to open and close independently, like not in synchronization with each other. So what I came up with was I created an armature. Over here on the right, you can see I have a root bone and then 4 children bones. Let's go into pose mode. This is the root bone. And then I have 1 bone for each of the drawers and 1 bone for the entire armoire. If I were to scale this root bone, it scales the entire armoire with all 3 drawers. And that's because each of the other bones is a child of this root bone. I did that by selecting the bone, shift selecting the root bone, Control P. Well, I did it in edit mode, I'm sorry. 1, 2, Control P, and then keep offset. But that's just the bones. The way I connected the mesh to the bones, if I go into object mode, if I select over here, let's say the left drawer, and then Control click the left drawer bone, then Control P to set the parent, I chose bone, this option here. So I parented the left drawer to the left drawer bone, and then the right drawer bone. And if I just click on each of these drawers, you see under relations, the parent is the armature, specifically the bone, the bottom drawer bone. So if I just click on each of these, you can see the relation. Okay. And so each of the bones is a child of the root bone, and each of the meshes are a child of one of the bones. And so now all I had to do was create an animation action for the entire armature. So let's look at that. Let's click on the root bone here, or the armature. So here under the action editor, I created a single action, armoire armature open complete. And I animated each of the bones that belongs to it, but I only animated one thing for each one. So for instance, for the 3 drawers, I only animated the Z location. And for the root bone, only the Y scale. So you can see the different channels here. And there are 20 frames. If I choose one of the bones, let's go into pose mode. So if I grab the root bone, I can just scale it, you'll see. Or if I grab the left drawer bone, I can pull it out. And that's really all I've done. Over here on the right, for each individual bone, you can see the transform. And as I just kind of scroll through this with the left drawer selected, you'll see only that Z changes. But because it's a child of the root bone, its scale is naturally changing. And then the same thing if I choose the scale here for the root bone. You see it starts at 1, it ends at 1, and then throughout it kind of goes up to 1.15, then drops down to 0.9, and then back up to 1. My goal with the animation was to make it look like the dresser was taking in a big breath and then compresses down and blows out the drawers. So that's what I was kind of going for. And then really the last thing to do is just to export that. It took me a couple of tries to kind of get the right settings, but if I just select everything, File, Export, FBX, here are the settings I used. Just whatever I have selected, shift click with both armature and mesh. And then under armature and animation, these are the 2 important parts. I unchecked all these things down here and just kept key album. And then here are my 2 axes.
Well, fellers, we done it. And honestly, I'm having a lot of fun with this series. This pirate ship series is rewarding because I feel like with the items that we're creating in each of these videos, we're kind of building out a theoretical game. And if this series got enough traction, I would be happy to make another one where we turn the final product with all the items into a small game loop like in Unity. a ship that you could sail around and maybe play a small card mini game. You take to the helm to steer it, or you chart a course with a navigation table. You change your cosmetics, maybe swap out your hat, simple things like that. But I'd be happy to make another series where we expound on the models that we've created here and we actually make them interactable. So if that's something you guys would like to see, then please add it to the comments. Another thing I want to say is if you guys have any comments on things you would like for me to build into this pirate ship series, I'm happy to add more videos with that too. I have tons of things planned that I want to do, but I'd like to build things that you guys want to see. And the final note that I want to add is you really should go download that Blender scene with the pirate ship from my GitHub. It's free. It's 2 clicks, takes like 15 seconds, and you could use it in your own game or expand on it and make the ship even cooler. We still haven't added any textures or anything. I'm going to do that in another video, but I'm sure you guys have like really awesome ideas for how we can make that ship even better. So, and if you ever do, I'd love a comment or a link or something to see what things you create with that ship and that Blender scene. So please do go download it. It's free.